Welcome to Municipals or Foes, where we'll discuss small town politics in rural America. We are just two council members from rural Oklahoma, where we'll discuss the satire of small town politics, where you get to decide if your municipality is really your friend or your foe. I'm Lauren Fuller, along with my co-host, Mike Similescu. Mike, welcome to the podcast. This is our first episode.
Podcast. Very exciting.
What
to do this
in
for
the
a while.
world are we even doing here? Like, why are we creating this podcast?
Because we don't have enough stuff to do in our lives, so we can do more stuff. We need to be more active in our community and work and stuff like that. We don't have enough things to do, children and other sports and all that type of stuff. So we're excited to be here at the at this podcast that we've started. And, I'm excited for it. I think, I've wanted to do some social media stuff. I've done a little bit in the past since we've been, with politics, now involved in politics the last 2 years. I think one of the things that we struggle with sometimes is getting our story out there. So I think this is a good way to kind of add to our story as to what we're doing at the city and City of Durant, obviously, as council members. And then kind of see where we're going in this direction. I think, we sometimes listen to social media forums and, a lot of times there's a lot of misinformation or disinformation or whatever you want to call it, where they assume certain things or push a certain agenda, which is either incorrect or just wrong or uninformed sometimes. And I think that, try to bring a little bit of more context to what's going on here in town and what we're trying to do for the community.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I honestly hesitate to post on social media because what do you get? You get those trolls out there that like to come and just like start trash talking on there, and it makes you hesitant to post anything. And you want to be engaged with your community. You want to tell them what's going on, but you constantly have these keyboard warriors out there who are just ready to rip you to shreds. And so I agree. I think this platform gives us a chance to kind of discuss it. And we are no longer trying to read into the text of a post. We now get to kind of like talk about it, hash it out, discuss it. You get to hear our heart behind things, right?
Right. And we'll get that. We'll have some, as we go forward here with our, future episodes, we'll have some guests on here, kind of discuss, what's been going on in the community, some of our community leaders, city officials, random guests that may be surprising us be on the show, blast from the past, things like that. We'll find some people come on here and talk to us and, throw some ideas around and see kind of what's going on in other parts of the community. One of the things that we've had trouble with previously before our election, previous years, was the sort of become kind of an insular city government. And I think the last 2 years, that's one of the things that we've worked to really improve, is to get those community groups back involved. And, I think that's one of the things that we've been successful to do. And I think a lot of the people that were on the sidelines for a while have come back to contribute. And then new people have stepped up that we have that have moved to the area or that have just been now interested in jumping in to help out and to move the community forward. I think, we've been really blessed in that respect. I think that's one of the things when we first ran for office was to bring that back, because I think that had been lacking the last couple of years.
I think that's true. And I think some context for our listeners would be good to discuss that you and I both got elected at the same time. We've been in office now for we're coming up on that 2-year mark. And so even though I still kind of consider us a little green in our positions, we have been in this seat long enough that we are seeing some of those things start to change, the needle start to move, right? And the reason we ran in the first place was because we were not satisfied with what was happening in our municipality and our local government. And so we wanted to jump in and change. And so we had a lot of these voices that were being ignored, and we feel like we had our community, that we knew where we wanted to go. We just needed to get it moving at the city local government level, right?
Right. No, I think that's right. I think that's one of the things that when we did run, I think we ran on a change platform, right? We didn't want to continue the same old stuff that had been going on the last, 4 to 6 years or whatnot at the city level. So we gave us that opportunity. And obviously the voters at that time agreed with us, like you're saying. I think as we go forward here, I think we just need to keep sort of that mentality and that momentum, because when change comes, um, there's going to be some voices out there that are going to be resistant to it, right? That's kind of the thing. But the voters at that time spoke for change, and that's what we're attempting to bring to the city. And we're not going to do things the same way that we've done them before. We can't sit here and say, I'm hesitant to do the changes that we want to implement, but then I don't like what was going on previously. So I think the important thing is to kind of continue to push our story and our goals for the city, and kind of in the aspect of what the voters wanted. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of that. Sometimes it's hard to understand all the intricacies, just because some stuff we can't potentially talk about because of confidentiality situations, and then other things are just the context is missing, because I think it involves much more of a deep dive than a lot of people are interested in doing. I think that's one of the things when we look at some of our social media groups here in town, is they tend to nitpick certain things out of context, right? Just to get a rise out of people. Social media is supposed to be like that, right? That how do you get clicks and views? That you have to say stuff or bring stuff up that is appears to be sensationalized, right? So we're trying to kind of put a little context in some of that stuff, because I think while social media has good aspects, but a lot of times it makes the process to get where we want to go a little more difficult.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, we've got people on social media who are riling people up, and we saw it through our elections. And what I loved about the election nearly 2 years ago is you started to see the general population of our community start to recognize just the wildness of the claims being made online. And they started to kind of, question some of these people starting to post. So now you've got the general population starting to write some of these people off who are just being overly dramatic, right? We can say that. Now, does that mean that there isn't some credence to some of the issues being brought up? Not at all. I mean, definitely we need to talk about these topics. We need to address them. On the flip side, even as we've come into office, we've realized there's a certain way you have to do things in government. There's certain process that we have to follow. And as much as we would love to move things along faster, or we would love to be more transparent about certain topics, there are unfortunately laws and regulations we have to abide by. I mean, neither you or I want to end up in jail because we chose to discuss something that we are legally obligated not to talk about for one reason or another. So it has opened our eyes a little bit as to how exactly these processes happen. But there are some topics that come up in our community that are just ridiculous, that it's like these people get set on something that you just go, what does this matter? Why are we even talking about this? And I've caught myself going, well, if this is all you have to complain about, then I guess we're doing pretty good, because there are much larger issues to address here, people.
Right. I mean, the things that we focus on, the important things and the hard things, the infrastructure stuff that we're working on, and those type of things, those are going to be difficult topics. And we all share the roads we need more water, we need more roads, we need more infrastructure. And as we go forward here, those are the heavy lifting that we need to do. And I think there's just some misconceptions about that. But I think as we start to show some of that progress, I think that'll help. Now, like you said, some people always complain, the costs of these projects compared to some of the stuff some people complain about on social media is really, surprising. Like the cost of some of the things they complain about is very small compared to the big issues when we talk about how much it's going to cost to fix Main Street, for example, or to build a new water line down south of town here. I mean, all those things, are in the millions and tens of millions of dollars, and they're talking about, thousands of dollars. And I think sometimes that kind of gets away a little bit on social media, because some of those purchases may not be, maybe not be the most prudent, but at the time it don't move the needle to fix your build a water line that's going to be, $25 million, or a Main Street that may be, in the tens of millions of dollars. We'll see. So, but anyway, I think that's why we're here, right? To kind of talk about those things. So,
Right. And as we've discussed as a council, as long as our community's toilet is flushing and their water is running, they don't care. We could spend tens of millions of dollars making sure those things happen, but they will never know, right? They will
Right.
never see
As
all
soon
the
as your
work and
toilet
money that
doesn't
goes
flush
into
or
that.
your water doesn't run, then you really care, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you
And
can't see the
so,
stuff in the ground. So
well, let's cherry pick. What has been something, Mike, that has been just an outrageous topic that has come up in our community that has been
I'm
complained
not sure
about
if it's
that?
outrageous, but one of the things that come up on social media, I think, and we've started to have this increased interest in Christmas activities, right? So we've had all these groups come in the last year. They got a grant to do the lights, permanent lights on Main Street on the buildings. They got we did our Christmas parade. Southeastern did some Christmas markets, and the carriage rides. So really increasing the just activities for people. West Side Christmas, right? That's
Yeah.
another one which I think was real big the week after. So all these groups, disparate groups, have come in to do all these things. And what do we hear about first? Complaining about the Christmas season. Oh, we spent $30,000 on a Christmas tree. Right? That
Heaven
was literally
forbid.
do it. That
Heaven
was literally
forbid. A
heaven
Christmas
forbid.
tree.
That was the first thing we heard about is, they spent money on this Christmas tree, and we moved it from City Hall to Market Square.
So let's talk
Which
about this, because this was funny to me because I mean, I get on social media, but I don't live on social media. I'm not there perusing trying to figure out what everybody's complaining about. But I can't tell you, as soon as the holiday season hit, I had people every other day going, "Did you hear about what they're talking about online?" And I just would go, "The Christmas tree?" Yeah. Yeah, have you seen the Christmas tree clamor? I'm like, "Oh my word." I didn't realize we could talk about a Christmas tree for so long.
it was a lot of conversation with that. I think, from what we understand, and I think the Christmas tree was paid for through OG&E funds that are usually for certain projects they provide. And we have a beautification committee that approved that purchase. But I mean, the idea behind the Christmas tree, besides it being reusable, I think the issue is it's not just an event for a small area at the city hall. The idea is we wanted to create a bigger event where people come downtown, spend money, enjoy the community, visitors come, fill the restaurants, shop downtown, all those type of things that, makes it a better community, and also, brings more pride to the community, and gives people something to do. Like, I think that's really important in this circumstance, is the kind of the context of the Christmas tree. If the Christmas tree brings in over the next 30 years, thousands of people downtown to spend money and stuff, it's really money well spent.
Well, let's give our listeners some context, Mac, because what most people don't know about our specific town is we have a Main Street district that goes from First Street to about 4th or 5th Street that we consider our Main Street district. And then it goes back in a few blocks either direction, right? And so our city hall is located in our Main Street district, but it is not on Main Street. And so it is, even though it is a trafficked area somewhat, it is not as heavily trafficked as our Main Street. And so when we a few years ago, originally our Main Street department, our Main Street offices through Main Street America would do the Christmas tree lighting, and their budget was pretty small. And so they had like a 12-foot artificial tree from Hobby Lobby that they would go put up in Market Square, which is located right on the corner of Main Street and First Street, where there is a lot more traffic. And we use that space for a lot of community events where we have a small little stage set up. It is a parking lot that we can close down for activities. We do our farmers market there on Saturday morning. It is kind of a popular place to hold things downtown because it gives the space and it is visibly seen by a lot of traffic. And so our Main Street would put the tree there, and it was small and they did what they could, and we appreciated that. Well, our mayor at the time decided, hey, let's go bigger, let's go better, let's improve this. And so they offered the city's assistance in buying a bigger live tree that they would put up every year, but they wanted to put it in front of City Hall. Okay, great. I'm glad the city got involved, wanted to do something bigger, better for the community.
Real quick, I remember speaking of social media, when they first started doing that, I remember people were complaining that they didn't like the way the tree looked.
Oh, well, I mean,
Do you remember that?
even
Because they
when
were
we
saying,
did
"Oh,
even when we
it's
did the live tree, people would complain because they'd get
right,
a live tree and it was ugly. Like they didn't
right,
like the shape of it. They didn't, like whatever.
right." They said, "Well, we can do better, we can do bigger, we can do what it
There's
is." So I
still
mean,
complaints. Still
sometimes
complaints.
it's some people complain, but I do anyway. But that was a little context to that too. So anyway, go ahead.
So now we've got a bigger tree. People still complain about it, whatever. And now we've had some change in administration and council, and it is seen as a benefit for the community to maybe invest in a large 30-foot tree that will be very big and conspicuous for the community, see, draw people in to look at it, want to take pictures. But knowing that Market Square draws more traffic and more visibility from the community, and more than that, visitors. Visitors don't wander in a few blocks, right? They're
Right.
going to be on those main corridors. So it was decided to put it back on Market Square, where you get more traffic, more visual sense of it, right? And create a space that says it's Christmas time for the community and for visitors, right? Because we want to attract those visitors to come downtown. And so we put this Christmas tree downtown, and now people aren't happy because we moved it. But guess what? It was a beneficial move for our community in general, right?
I
Nobody's
think most
going.
people are happy that they moved it. I think
I
it's just a
think
certain
so.
few that want to
I
complain
think
about
so.
it.
I mean, there are obviously going to be people, you can't please everybody. We know this,
Right.
right? But so that's the context, is we have a certain corridor through town that's where this tree got moved to. And this is how the city got involved. And this is where we're at with this. So you've got people complaining, A, of the location, and B, now that we spent money on a tree that is going to attract people for years to come, right? And who knows how much we were spending on a live tree that large every year. I'm not positive. I haven't looked at the
Couple
budget,
$100,
but
I think, from what I understand, but I'm not for sure, to be honest
I mean,
with
a
you.
tree that size has got to cost a little bit, right? So you're
Mhm.
talking about every year spending money on a tree
Right, I
versus
mean,
an
as long
investment.
as I think as long as it lasts for a while, I think it's, like I said, I think
Yeah,
it'll, as long as it's, it'll make its money back, through traffic of people and stuff like that. It's just like, we have those shows downtown, when we have the false concert series, or whatever they call that. This year was real successful, drew a lot of people down there, and I think it was worth what the chamber, that wasn't a city project, but that the chamber spent on that, because it brought a lot of business and traffic downtown. So I think that's sort of the goal, is also, we got to market ourselves better. It's not just about the downtown, but it'll help with if we can draw people spend money, it'll help with some of the big issues that we have here to deal
exactly.
with, water, roads, which are really at the forefront of our sort of our minds. But we also have to have some low-lying fruit to do some improvements to kind of put, as we move forward, to show that, hey, this is a different direction, we're heading a different direction. So
That's true. I mean, we're working on kind of changing the culture of our community and how they view our city, and being prideful in it and being proud of it and wanting to show it off to visitors so that people want to come here. And so we're slowly but surely kind of trying to create that environment that people are proud of, to bring people to town. And what some of our listeners may not realize is we're located in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is it the only state that cities rely on sales tax? I think it's the
yep,
only
just
state in the
sales tax and
US.
some franchise fees. I think we'll get some of that, but
So when
um,
we talk about sales tax, we're very passionate about it. Like, we want to drive tourism and visitors to our town that spend money in city limits, because sales tax is all we have to run off of as a municipality. And so it is very important to us to make sure that our community is thriving economically in that way, because that's what we need.
right. If you want better roads and water and sewer and stuff, one of the really, sales tax is the biggest way you get it around here. So we need to push things that will increase our sales tax, and having a downtown that that draws people to it. Whether it's through events or through some beautification, or the businesses that are down there, I mean, that'll increase our car traffic and bring more businesses to town and bring more people to town, and that'll increase our budget to build roads and sewers and all that stuff that we need so desperately.
Exactly. So that's where we're at with this whole issue of this Christmas tree is we really want it to be a destination for people. We want to create a place that people want to be, not only
Right.
for our community, but for people passing through.
Right. And, the Christmas parade, we did the Christmas parade. They did the tree lighting the same night as the Christmas parade. And I think it's kind of a work in progress as to when we should do the Christmas lighting. I mean, timing wise, to have the most people there. But I thought it had a pretty good turnout. The Christmas parade had a really good turnout. And those are the type of things that we want to see. That brings out a lot of community pride. We marched. I was in the Christmas parade the last couple of years, and it's been a fun time with our clinic, the staff riding on a float and all that type of stuff. But it's nice to see the people out, enjoying the community. It's cold. It's December. It's nighttime, but you see all the kids out there, everybody having a good time, having hot chocolate, waving to everybody. And those are important things, right? That's one of the things about small towns that are different from if you've lived in a bigger city or a suburb. Where you don't have that sort of sense of community as much. And, I think that's the same way with your homecoming parades and all that kind of stuff. And where do we do all that? We do all that down the main street, right? Nobody's parading down the highway. Nobody's parading down over by Walmart. We're going through historic downtown, right? So it makes it important to do the best we can so that we can have people come down there and put our best foot and face forward, I think.
Right. And I mean, to go kind of back to our introduction is, we're here to show you guys, like, we're for you. We are your friends. We are trying to improve this community. We are trying to look at the big picture. And sometimes there's a lot of moving parts going on that not everybody gets to see that we have to deal with on the city side of things. And when we get, internet trolls out there that want to bash one topic, it is very difficult because I know a lot of our constituents are trying to decide if we're their friends or their foes. And we're here to kind of let you guys in on a little bit of what we talk about and what we're figuring out, because we want you guys to see we are your pals, right?
Sure.
We do want the best for our community. And it is tough to talk about everything with everyone. And then sometimes you'll get people from other communities that might see a little bit of the humor in what we're dealing with, because they're dealing with the same things, that you realize that every community is very similar in what they're dealing with and their constituents and their issues within their community. And so we want to kind of reach out to everybody and say, hey, you're not alone, but we're also all in this together and we're trying to find a path forward. But we just want to give you guys kind of our side of those things.
Right. And I think that's, like I said, nobody, when we did this, we didn't have any kind of like secret agenda or anything going into this, right? I've been here, 15 years now. We have a successful clinic. My kids growing up here. I've been a lot of places in my time. And like I said, we settled here and it's been a great place. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all or on the council or any of that stuff if I didn't think this place was worth it, worth fighting for, worth helping, worth improving, and I think that gets lost. There's always somebody thinking that, hey, we have another angle here. I don't have another angle. Like I said, they pay us $100 a month for a meeting. That's not really worth it, really, to deal with some of the other stuff that we deal with. If we didn't really feel like we wanted to be here and to serve the community. I think everybody that's been on council has probably felt that way. Even some of our potential adversaries, or foes, if you want to call them, probably the same thing. I think probably everybody, for the most part, had good interest to do this, serving our community. But I just, it's just the ideas I think that are different. I think as we move forward here, I think we'll see more of that over the next year or two.
Of course. And I mean, I like to remind people, I want the potholes in front of my house filled just as badly as you do, but I'm trying to figure out how to do it on a grand scale, not just filling the one in front of my house. Right.
We're on my clinic, that Bryan Drive, man, they need to come fill some in mine too. 'Cause it's crazy the amount of potholes that we've got on Bryan Drive there. But I mean, yeah, no, I think that's true. I think everybody, we all have the same concerns. We all have the same, idea, and not the same ideas. I'm sorry. We have the same concerns and the same kind of goals. What the city really needs is just getting there and how we get there. But we also have to do other things. It's not just because if we don't do some of these other things, it'll be impossible to do the big things. So I think it's walk and chew gum at the same time. That's kind of the things that when we do in our lives, we multitask. So I think that's really important when it comes to government and politics. We have to multitask because there's multiple things happening. It's not just one thing over and over. So.
Well, and what I like to remind people of is there's 5 of us on our council, which isn't that many people, I guess, in the grand scheme of councils, like 5 members for our community. But we don't get to come in with our own agenda and do whatever we personally want. Like, we all have to agree, or at least the majority of us have to agree. Right. And we've had the opportunity to sit down and hash out what we see the vision of our community to be and how we want it to grow and harness the growth that's coming this direction. But like, we all have to say, hey, what are the things we agree on? Because just because I want to do something doesn't mean it happens. Right. Like, everybody has to find value in it and where it fits into the growth of our community. And so we're doing this as a team, and nobody is getting their way just because they happen to sit on council, right?
Right. No, and I think that's true. And also, I think sometimes there's certain things that the community, when it comes to the way our council manager system of government works, where there's certain things that are council previews, and then there's stuff that it's administrative, right? So our city manager is kind of like the administrator of the day-to-day stuff. So like, I'll give you an example, like, sometimes people, stop signs, right? Stoplights, stop signs, speed limits, things like that. Like, that's not something the council can change. Like, we shouldn't be voting on every stop sign and stoplight and speed limit sign and those type of things, because that's not something that this system of government works for. That's what the city administration and the bureaucratic part does, because they're the ones that have the expertise and they do the day-to-day managing of that. That's not necessarily a council type of activity. Like, sure, we set the fees, right? We do, we set fees and permits and, those type of things, but we don't do, we do the big picture stuff, right? So we put people like Pam Polk, who is our city manager, and her administration, they're in charge of the day-to-day stuff. They're supposed to be the people that handle the day-to-day operations and these sort of smaller time decisions while we do the big stuff. And that's kind of supposed to be, because otherwise we get bogged down in, small things, and it becomes impossible time-wise and meeting-wise to deal with that type of stuff.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, people come and want to complain to us, and it's like, well, that's not my job. My job is actually to make
sure they come anytime people want to come talk. We always come talk, right? We usually point them in the right direction. If it's something that we can help with, we usually we'll talk to the city manager or whoever it needs to be, and we'll try to see what the situation is so that we can help them get in a path forward. But it's not something the council can't decide, oh, I'm going to let you do these things, or I'm going to take this stop sign out. That doesn't work. That we don't have the power to do those type of things unilaterally. So we're not kings, right? So we can't just decide, hey, I'm going to make this stop sign or or put this speed limit there, or put a speed bump there. Like, we can't, or fill what potholes. Like, I can't tell them to go fill this pothole. It's technically illegal for me to tell city workers to go do stuff. So we have to pass it on to our city manager. And like I said, we have to have the confidence in them and their administration to do the things that the day-to-day stuff like we're discussing here, and then really respond to the citizens' complaints. I think that's really important, that we do respond to the citizens' complaints, but it needs to be from an administrative standpoint also.
Yeah. It reminds me of, we had a constituent that was very upset, going back to our Christmas tree, very upset with the amount of money spent on this Christmas tree. And we had to remind them that this Christmas tree was actually paid for with a grant. It didn't necessarily come out of our city's budget, right? And so you've got people who get fired up about administrative decisions that we have to then come in and back our city manager up on, because we had somebody ready to like die at the stake to fire our city manager over a $30,000 Christmas tree. And we had to take a step back and go, hey, but do you realize how grants work? Because they wanted to go, well, you could have spent that money on potholes in front of my house. And I'm going,
you can't take money that's appropriated for other things and spend it on other potholes or those type. People understand that you can't take grant money or money that's allocated for certain things and spend it somewhere else.
No, exactly. And so we had to step back and go, "Well, you don't understand how grants work. Like they are awarded for very specific purposes, and that was within the realms of it, but a pothole is not." And so we have to come in and back our city administrators up. Sometimes we get to hear people out, but we get to explain to them why things are the way they are. But at the end of the day, like that Christmas tree fits the vision of what we want for our community, of drawing
Right.
people in. And so that's where we have to kind of circle back, and it comes full circle of we want to hear our constituents, we want to talk to them, but sometimes we have to bring in that context and explain to them like the
Like
vision
that
of our
goes back to
community.
the misinformation on social media, right? They're
Yeah.
good at it. It's hard to understand when it just triggered on by stuff like that. It sounds sensationalized, and then when you actually explain it, you may not agree with it, but most of the time, because there's always exceptions, but it works. Most people are understanding. I feel like once we talk a little bit, some people you can't reason with, but I mean, I think, and like I said, we like hearing from people. I always hear from people, and I do my best to try to point them in the right direction and see kind of what we need to do. Like I said, we also want to be, bring more people to be involved, right, in our community. We've seen some of that with some of the groups in town the last year or two. So we like to see that. So we do like to encourage those types of things. But sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Yeah. So we wrap all this up to say, you get to decide, are we your friends or we your foes? I hope you guys get a little bit of insight and see that we're really your friends. We're
Yeah,
working
most of the
for you.
time. I'm sure there's some foes out there, but that's okay.
I'm sure a few people
Everybody
view
has
us.
to have some enemies, but most of the time, like I
Yeah.
said, most of the time we want to do what's right for the community, what we feel is right for the community. I mean, I think that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And like you said, we can't please everybody. We're always going to have somebody who
Even
has
if I don't
something.
agree with you, I still want to be your friend,
Yeah, yeah, of course we
right?
can still sit down over a cup of coffee and discuss things, and just because you don't get the answer you want on that topic doesn't mean that the community in general isn't working on progress, right?
Right. No, I think that's true. And then, if we don't agree on this, maybe I'm sure there's other stuff we can agree on.
Listen, we have so many more topics to discuss about that people will disagree or have shown some dissent about that we can talk about on future episodes.
Oh, we got
That
plenty, I'm sure.
Oh, so much material, Mike, that we could talk about of dissension, of, people get hung up on very specific topics that we have to discuss about, like that larger vision of our community and how that topic fits into the larger vision of our community. So we will wrap this one up. We thank you guys for tuning in and listening and hearing us out. I hope you come back to hear about some more interesting topics that come up in our social media forums that people like to just hang on to. But until next time, Mike, any closing words?
Oh, not much. I think we'll have a guest next time. I think our city manager Pam Polk will be our first guest in our next episode, and we'll talk to her about what she's noticed here in the last 8 months. She's been in the city of Durant. I know she gave us a list of things that she felt that she's accomplished over the last 8 months, and we'll touch base on some of those things and kind of where we're heading for in the new year. I think it'll be an exciting new year as we go forward here at with the city council and the new administration as we try to rebuild some of the culture at our city. And it takes time, but I think we're heading in the right direction. And like I said, I always tell people, it's like we can't fix in 4 years what it took 40 uh, to break down. So we're going to work and try to leave it better than where we started it. Then when we, I'm sorry, make it better than where, leave it better than when we got here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to our future guests and more topics. I'm sure some stuff will come out that'll be interesting to talk
Oh,
about.
yeah. We look forward to bringing in some extra people to give some more perspective so you guys aren't listening to us babble the whole time. But thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next time.
All right, y'all have a good day.